morning, everybody. This is Jose Rado Jr., your neighborhood-friendly insurance agent, and this is episode number 3 of the Little Bit About Everything podcast. That's right. And I have this. Honestly, I can't say enough about this guy. I really have the wonderful pleasure of being with a friend and a great colleague of mine. So I'll let you introduce yourself, bro. Go right ahead.
Definitely, man. Jose, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. My name is Wilberto Rodríguez, and I own a home health agency in West Springfield, Massachusetts. We also serve Central Mass as well, so we provide nursing services for the elderly. And my newest project is ReWealth.
Awesome. So speak to me a little bit about your home care company. How did that come about? I know you said you've been in business for a while now, but how did that come about? How did you just say, I want to do this? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure, for sure. So I've been in the industry right now for 10 years. April was my 10th year anniversary last month. So kudos. I got into it, again, by connections, networking with people, individuals. I met somebody in a prior company that I used to work with. And we always said, hey, we should work together. I think we could do something. So my background generally is finance, and his was nursing. And so it got to a point where, he would call me and say, hey, I think about starting up an agency. You want to partner up? And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And then long story short, initially I was scared, right? I had a good finance job. I had a nice window view. I was close to home. I would go on my break. I would go to my grandma's house, get some arroz habichuelas. And I was like, oh, I can't leave this. I can't leave this. I can't start a new business. And everyone was like, no. And I was like, what do I have to lose? I can always fall back on finance. Worst comes to worst. And that's kind of how we hit it off. So I took the chance 10 years ago in April and started off the business. We grew very, very fast. And you learn along the way, when there's that big exponential growth. And then eventually I started my own with another partner back in 2015. So 10 years total.
That's awesome, man. And I really admire again just your entrepreneurial spirit, man, and I just admire you in general as a person and as a man, but definitely as a professional, man. You got it going on, bro. You got it going on. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned that now the art, your new baby, right? It's art. Mm-hmm. So again, how did that come about? What exactly are you trying to accomplish with that? So, just give us a little bit of backstory in regards to that as well.
Sure. ReWealth to me is called ReWealth. So not if we're redistributing or recycling wealth. And what is wealth? It's an abundance. That's what wealth is, and essentially in the term. But in this situation, we're recycling a wealth of wisdom, things that are hard, tried and true. Experiences that we've had in life. The channel is mostly finance, but also on a personal development level as well. And the goal is basically to bring some information that you may have heard before and just interpret it in a different way. It's catering to the underserved as well. So we're kind of trying to bring it to a more understandable level as opposed to speaking, whatever financial jumbo lingo that there is, right? That scares us away, essentially.
Absolutely.
But yeah, in a nutshell, it's basically just that, taking the information that we've learned, such as from people like yourself, me, other entrepreneurs, and then redistributing back into you and deciphering it in a more simpler way.
So why though? Like, why is that, why is that an important thing for you to do? Because again, you're obviously doing well, and you're going to continue to grow and continue to do well, but why is that particular aspect of your business, I guess, why is that important?
Sure. I think it takes, for me, like it took one person to meet another person, right? So that mentor introduced me to another person. That person introduced me to another person. And the list of mentors goes up, but the relationships that I've developed help in a long way. And it took one person essentially to have that domino effect. So if I could pay that back and say, hey, I learned this because of this guy, if I could, even if it's just one life that I'm touching, the way someone touched mine, Absolutely. That's what I would like to do. And be that person that said, hey, this guy set me on the right path. This guy, he introduced me to this, or I learned this from this individual or from ReWealth or from other people that we'll have on the podcast as well once I start doing mine. So.
Well, if you do, I'm there. Sign me up, bro. Don't even. No, but and that's just so cool, man. That again, just admirable and really commendable that you have that mentality of, paying it forward. And I think, especially in our in our community, right, which the Latino community and just the minority community, a lot of times, a lot of us are missing that, right? A
Yeah.
lot of us are missing that, and I think it's amazing that you've actually taken that initiative, man, to
Mhm.
take what you know, and give pay that forward, and then of
Yeah.
course, as because I see it all the time when in your post, you continue to fill yourself, right, so that then you can obviously give to others, right, because you don't want to, that's the name of the game, right, we
Exactly.
want to share, we want to give, well, we also have to fill ourselves.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I think it's amazing that that you're doing that. And so on another, guess taking it to another level of the conversation. So Roberto, like, what is your drive and your vision, whether short term, long term, or anything in between?
Sure. I think the drive really comes from when I was younger, essentially, or as I was growing up. A lot of people would ask me why, like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And a lot of, in reality, if you look at it, people always want to say, hey, write what your why is, right? And it's funny because for me, it was like, why not? Everybody's like, oh, you got your pilot's license. Why are you doing that? I was like, so why not? Like, oh, you got a motorcycle license. Why are you doing that? Because I want to drive. Like, there's always like this reason as to why you can't further yourself or be a better person. And I always say, like, if you could be better, why not? If it's better spiritually, it's a better love life, it's a better financial life. It's not just finances, it's the whole lifestyle in general. So if you could be better, why not? And so that came grounded in myself, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this. And people be like, why? And I just be like, why not? There's no limits besides the limits that you place on yourself. And a lot of people think that those things can't happen to them, and until you experience something that you're like, wow, like maybe this could happen to me, or maybe it's just an experience. Exposure is what I usually call it. Exposure. For me, being at a young age, back in Primerica, right? That's how I first started getting into finances. It took that for me to see this guy in Rhode Island who was our SVP, and basically he had a huge house, 3-car garage, Ferrari, Mercedes Benz, these 2 dogs. And for me, I was like, wow, people live like this. Like, I thought that was crazy. And I'm sure on the back end, they may look at us and be like, wow, people live like that. That's crazy, right? And there's no right or wrong at all whatsoever, at all. But if you want to get to that level, someone like myself or you who could be a mentor can help you achieve that. So that's kind of where the drive comes from. So the drive comes from basically that, being someone who can mentor another person, be someone as an example. And, you owe it to yourself. There's always along that journey to success, right? Because there's never no final destination. Once you reach something, you're like, okay, you got to keep going. And I think that's an internal drive. That's something that gets developed over time, right? Because initially in your first time, you're like, you'll give up. You're like, it's not working for me. But did you really try? Did you really put any effort in? Did you try a different way of doing it? Because if you do that one same thing over and over and over, right? The definition of insanity, you're not going to get a different result. But if you try somewhere else, you're going to get it. So.
Absolutely. Now, as far as where do you, envision yourself and all these initiatives you have going on? Like, where do you envision them, short or long term?
Sure. So in the short term, obviously, this is something my baby, my project, something I've been doing on myself individually. Obviously, long term, to scale it, I had to bring some people on board and kind of go from there. But I've been, utilizing the platforms that we have right now. I recently just started getting more serious about it, right? As I mentioned,
Yeah.
I started back in 2018, but the fear, uncertainty, the doubt is what held me back, and I held myself back. So when you look in the mirror, that's that person that you are battling against every day. What's in your mind? What are you thinking about? But short term is basically that is helping enough people get what they want, which would in turn help me get what I want. And in the long term, I really see it as maybe something that I could start, maybe like a teachable or like some kind of online financial university or something like that, where it could be taught in schools, right? Especially this. It's not taught in schools. And I actually have an opportunity in 2 weeks. I'm doing a high school graduation speech. So that's something where I could be able to drop that information in. And I got contracted by an individual recently who wanted more information on it to be a financial literacy project in the school. And this is in West Springfield. So I'm hoping
That's
that,
awesome, man.
yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that through that gives
That's awesome.
a way to make it normal, right? It's not. We always say it's not sexy to talk about credit. It's not sexy to talk about finances or something like that. It's not like normal. Most people hide away from it, but we're all self-made, whether we're successful or not. So.
Nah, I'm actually hopeful that, especially at the school level, right, with kids, and that I'm really hoping that this takes off,
Yeah.
for you, because that's huge, man. I'm pretty sure that if we would have had any financial literacy education when I was in high school, or perhaps even younger, I would have made a lot of different decisions that I ended up making when I was young.
Sure,
So
for sure.
I think it's amazing. I think it's great, and I really hope that takes off. So another question that I wanted to ask you. So what are your thoughts on, for example, like building relationships and expanding your network, whether that's on your home care business or your ReWealth initiative, or just in general.
Yeah. So I'll, again, take it down for the last 18 years, right, Abe? I'm an 18-year overnight success. Everybody sees what I have now, but not what's been happening in the process. I'm sure that's the same with everybody. Your network is key. That's crucial. The people who you surround yourself with, those 5 inner peer group circle people that you surround yourself with, that's crucial. So it's always good to know people. It's always good to network. Get outside of your comfort zone, right? People look at me as an extrovert, but I say like I'm an intro extrovert. Like I have the qualities of both. I just know when to play, what I gotta
Absolutely,
play,
man.
right? And but I love networking events. I'm hoping this COVID done is over so we could be chill and be in person, because just that human connection, that need to be around people and socialize is there. But yeah, going back to the main question, connection is really what you need with individuals, because they can also introduce you to their network as well, therefore furthering yours. So it's always about knowing people and being able to introduce who you know to those other people, individuals as well, and build rapport with those individuals as well. Yeah,
absolutely, man. And for one, like you said, networking is it's crucial, because that one conversation with someone could lead you to like you're an example of that. You were networking with someone, and then you got into your business. So yeah, networking is definitely huge, and I can't wait to go back to doing live events, or just because, again, just to
and the real networking, not like you have a friend on Facebook and you know him, like real deal.
Absolutely, no, I got you. No, now, as far as because again, you're involved in a lot of different things, and well, not a lot of different things, but in various things, and you seem to have, like, I guess, mastered both realms of what you do. So, what do you consider to be like the biggest or most important variable as it pertains to growth on a business standpoint?
Yep. Growth really comes with time. You really can't shortcut that specific period. Now, of course, you have linear growth and exponential growth, but I always say, like, everything is a process. It takes time, and it's not a one night wonder, or one thing that happens overnight. So you really have to focus on the growth. Your game plan may change as you evolve, right? Because you can't run $1 million business with when you're running $100,000 business. There's 2 different aspects. Sure, there's some things that kind of correlate and transfer over, but the metrics are completely different. So growth really comes down to, obviously, the marketing, having systems in place. I really do believe in systems, because you're able to duplicate a system or duplicate an individual, and then relocate or expand to another location. But systems, it's like a checkbook, right? When you go to fly a plane, the pilot has a pre-flight checklist of the things he has to do before he takes off, and the things that he has to do when he arrives. So systems is key. The marketing is key, and building relationships with the individual. What makes you different than Joe Schmo, who's selling the same house, down the street? Or what makes your company different? How personable are you with your clients, with your potential clients? Remember their birthdays, remember special events. They'll remember that. And then obviously that could lead a long way for you getting referrals as well.
Yeah. No, and I think that to me is one of the things that, first of all, the time aspect of it. I think, this is about you today, but, we'll get into something that I learned, especially the last couple of months.
Mhm.
And it's been a tough lesson, and I'm still kind of going through through it. But at time is, you cannot take shortcuts, man.
Yeah.
And whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. You just gotta you gotta take the punches. You gotta. But if you keep at it, which obviously you have, I'm sure, you know, in these last 10 years, you've had times when you're like, that your business may have, whatever challenges that came along the way that could jeopardize the growth of the business, or the business in general, like in its entirety.
I mean,
But
I failed twice. I'm on my third and fourth, and but I am who I am now because of what happened on the first and second. And I didn't stop. I could have stopped. I couldn't be like, no, this ain't for me. Like, it's tough. It's stressful. It
sucks, man. It sucks.
I was thinking earlier, like, what's going to be more harder, like having a hard life because you didn't try it, or dedicating 6 months, a year, 5 years, and having a hard time initially to now benefit your fruits of labor, so to speak, right? So
and I personally believe that it is better to I prefer, right? I prefer to experience the pain of failure, right? Than like the paralysis of not trying.
Hands down. I love it.
You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, bro, like, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be real with you, man. Like, I'm a pretty scared guy. Like, I hate taking risks. That's like this whole thing with investing and like all this stuff. Like, bro, that's not me. It's really, really not me. But I understand, and I love my parents. My parents were a great example of how to have a great family life and all that. But their mentality is not. That's not them. You know what I mean? So then they kind of raised us that way, and then it's like now I take that. I'm like, but yo, there's people making a great living, or putting or amounting or accumulating great savings, great wealth by dabbling in everything, right? Because I'm never going to be that one guy that just goes into stocks or crypto or whatever the case. That's not never going to be me. But if I can somehow, some way, create a little bit more income, wealth by dabbling into these things, and then by extension, I can I have children, right? And by extension, kind of give it to my kids, and even if it's not my kids, just younger ones, why not, man?
You're hitting on the right head, so it's all about that. And they usually say, right, the average millionaire has 7 streams of income, right?
Yep.
So or sometimes they'll start off with one niche and then they'll expand after that one fountain feeds off of the other, so to speak. So
absolutely, man. So now again, you've had you said you've been in the business for 10 years. You've you yourself said you failed twice, and all these things have kind of led you to where you are today. I love the fact that you said you're 18-year
your overnight success.
Overnight success, right? Overnight success, right? Now, what has been like the biggest lesson you've learned throughout this entire time, or a couple of things? What has been the biggest lesson, or a couple of lessons that you've learned that will stay with you, for forever?
No, for sure. I would say, you need to have a vision, right? So you always have to cast that vision for yourself and for your teammates, even sometimes for your family when you're developing things. But also have an end in mind. What's your exit strategy? Most people know how to start, but then they don't know how to terminate if you want to. Now, I know a lot of people who have exited, and then the first couple years they're like, cool, everything's chilling. But then after the third or fourth year, they're bored, right? They're stuck. They're like, I want to do something again. So have that in mind, and when you start, have an end in mind for that goal or project. Some of the other lessons I've learned was, sometimes you have to trust your gut. You have to go with that gut instinct. Always play by the book. It's black and white. There is no gray. So you should always be doing good business. The shady business in the long run, that kind of will get you caught up. And it's a value of your character, who you are. If you're doing things, making a sale, for the wrong reasons, so to speak, or abusing the sale, right? There's all those practices that are there. So I guarantee you that quick money is not sustainable. You want the long-term, the healthy relationships, the healthy flow of things that are going to go on in your life. And a couple other lessons is, again, I say that 18-year overnight success, like no one knows, no one's, maybe my girlfriend or my family, they know, hey, you got home at 3 o'clock last night, or you didn't even come home at all. There's been times I slept at the office, and it's that journey that you have to do things that you don't normally do in order to achieve things that, normal people can't achieve. And I would always pass that on to everybody. Like, be prepared to dedicate, a good amount of your life and time to, your business or your goals. It doesn't even have to be business wise, whatever goals you are, fulfill yourself with those goals, surround yourself with that. But during the process, make things like non-negotiables, right? So for example, like if you're dating somebody, you just say, hey, I'm going to dedicate, every Sunday from whatever date or once, whatever days it'll be on a month, say, hey, non-negotiable. This is my time for my niece, my son, my daughter, my spouse, my mom, my loved one. That way you could fill them in as well too, because, they have to be a part of your life. Those are people who been around. And, those are all like key lessons for me that have kind of started. I've done things with no money. I've done things with money when I started like different businesses. So, I would prefer to use other people's money to OPM, hands down, because I've learned from it. I always felt, having no debt is good. Having my own money is good. But then I've learned that even the times that I did do my own money, other opportunities came and I wasn't able to capitalize it because my money was tied up on something else. So.
That's great, man.
Yeah,
that's all good stuff. Thank God I'm recording this. I'm about to go back, and it's true, man. You said a lot of awesome things there, and specifically the non-negotiables, and the family aspect of it is really, really important because, bro,
you gotta
have all the money in the world, but if you have a miserable family life, that will kind of suck, But hey, it is what it is. Now, speaking of wealth, right? Because you're that's kind of what you do, right? That's your thing. So, how would you define wealth?
So I mean, wealth and sitting with success is defined differently by each person. Everybody has their own way to measure it. I think wealth to me is something that you could, have a combination of time. Time most being important. Like, a lot of people have money, a lot of money, but they don't have no time. And again, that goes with the non-negotiables. No time for their kids, no time for their family. They miss all the events as their kids are growing up, or these sporting events, because they're just locked down day in, day out. So wealth for me, or I guess the reason why I'm doing it is to get that time. For you and I, we're probably in our late 30s, maybe early 40s. Someone who's 20 has a big asset. Time.
Yes.
20 years ahead of us.
Yes.
So if we could take that information that we know and distribute it and say, hey, I get it. Because, right, when we were that age, we thought we were invincible. We could do whatever we want. We always thought, hey, we have time.
You took the words right out of my mouth. We had all the time in the world. Next thing you know, we were like, I'm pushing 40, bro.
Oh, yeah. So that to me is wealth. When you're able to manage your own time, when you don't have to work for the paycheck, work because you want to, not because you have to. And when I used to do lending, it was so crazy to see, 60, 70-year-olds have all this debt, and they had to work because they had to pay off that debt, and if you have a certain plan from the get-go, you could eliminate that. That is there for that, the American dream is broken. I'll say that right now. So you create your own dream. What do you want? And we see a lot of examples of it right now with millennials too, making their own money, making money with TikTok, making money with Instagram, YouTube. So there's all these different avenues now. And this is the best time to be making the most amount of money because of all the tools that we have available.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's awesome, man. And you're absolutely right. I think that the biggest satisfaction, which is wealth, I think wealth to a certain extent, whether it's monetary or just overall, I think, wealth is very much tied in and even contingent on our level of satisfaction. So if we can get the level of satisfaction, taking what we know and, kind of giving that to like you said, those that are, that have that asset, they have the youth, they have the energy, and they have time because they're still young. And, that has to be very, very fulfilling. And again, it just adds to our overall wealth.
Yeah, and I'll add, like the basic fundamentals, right? We can't bypass the fundamentals, which, if you have your kids are good, you have a roof over your head, your bills are paid, you got food on the table, that's wealth, and then layered it. Okay, then what's the next step after that? Hey, everything else is a bonus after those key ingredients taken care of.
Absolutely, man. So now, one thing that I wanted to ask you, as well, you know, what is the one, I guess, value or character trait that is absolutely crucial for anyone to be successful in really any business, right? Even though we all have different businesses, right? But what do you feel would be the most important, character trait to develop or to continue to hone in on for anyone that wants to have, a certain level of success in their careers?
Yeah, I would say the double D's, right? Determination and discipline.
Okay. I was like, wait, where is this going?
You need determination. You need discipline overall. Discipline is the number one factor. If you don't do what you need to do when you have to do it, it's going to reflect at some point down the road. So discipline is doing it when you don't want to, doing it when it's uncomfortable, doing it when you're tired, because ultimately that's what's going to get the job done. We're not here for a motivation session. You can motivate yourself till you're blue in the face. I've been to many events, but if I didn't do what I needed to do after I learned what I learned, nothing happens except the guy got richer because he got my money and I got the experience. That's it. So I would say discipline, hands down, is making that phone call when you got to do it. Follow up when you need to. Write that letter. Make it personable. Make that marketing call. Upload that video. Right.
Yeah.
All those things. It's discipline, discipline, discipline. Hands down. It's the key.
It's really amazing that you said discipline, because a lot of people in business spend a lot of their time like trying to get motivated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with motivation, and to a certain extent, me, the only thing with me is, bro, that motivation is a feeling, right? Motivation is a feeling. You gotta, and oftentimes, especially when you have, and I'll be just completely transparent here, like when you have like emotional problems, like I do, like have some, like some local. Everybody can see that, right? If I allow my feelings to have any sort of impact on how I'm gonna go about my day, bro, there's a lot of days where I won't get anything done. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. So one thing that I've learned, man, and I'm so glad that you said that, is I'm pretty obsessive when it comes to my discipline. Now, of course, there's a lot of things that I can improve on. There's a lot of things that I can do better. Absolutely. We all have, I think, we all have room to grow. But sometimes, man, it just like, it doesn't matter how I'm feeling. I could feel like I'm down, I'm depressed, or whatever the case may be. And I have to get up and just have the mentality of, so I'm really obsessed about being disciplined, and about, like you said, making that phone call, sending those emails, uploading that video, doing this today, right? Or I could be laying down, it's raining, I don't feel very well, but I'm like, nah, I got to do this. Like, this is, and so I think that is so crucial, man, because a lot of us, I'm not saying it's wasted time, because it's not wasted time, but a lot of times, a lot of us really spend more than we allot a lot of time to motivating ourselves. And the truth is that motivation is fleeting, man.
Yep.
It really, really is. It really, really is. But discipline is not. Discipline is, if you're a disciplined person, that you're always, like, for the most part, you're always going to be disciplined. You know what I mean? So I'm actually like, wow, I'm surprised. I'm really glad that you said that, because it's true. Discipline is,
Show me your daily habits, your daily rituals, and I'll know how successful you'll be.
Exactly. And like you said, this isn't about putting anybody down. We're all different. But I think if we dedicated a lot more time to just really being disciplined about what we do, I think a lot more of us would definitely hit our goals.
Oh yeah.
And it's just, and again, discipline also helps you not fear failure.
Correct.
Because you're gonna fail. Like,
Once you embrace it, you're good.
you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter, like, but discipline is what says, you know what, nah, I got this. You got to get up and try again. So I'm really, really happy, that you said that. And one thing that I wanted to ask you too, man, as it what have been some of the best like resources that you've that have helped you, kind of grow, on a personal level, and of course, from a business standpoint.
Yep. I would say I have a master's and PhD in YouTube University and Google University. So those two are my two resources. I have a
good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. I have a PhD in Alphabet. Alphabet's the father company for Google, which owns YouTube as well. But no, outside of that, it was a lot of seminars, a lot of reading, a lot of books. I know a lot of people say I don't want to read, I don't have the time. So now there's Audible. I still prefer the reading the book because I think there's a connection still with me smelling the book, turning the page. I could write on it, where Audible seems a little bit more passive, at least for me. And again, just your network of people, I at one point I blacked out, right? I went off the grid. I turned off my social media. I just kind of focused on what I needed to do. And then at one point, I was like, all right, I still need social media. As much as you want to get away from it, you need it. So then I opened up a separate account that was just like business things and people who I follow, people who I wanted to model, so to speak. And then that helped me kind of get back into it. So I will always use those resources, learn from your experiences and from others. Again, I think we talked about that earlier today when we were on the Clubhouse, is, you can learn from other people's experiences and you want to, because you want to prevent them. But when you go to that experience yourself, there's something that can't be substituted by that, because now you really are fully aware, like, all right, that's a no-go, or I like this, I really enjoy this, I'm gonna go for that, So, but, try to fail fast and fail as soon as you can, and understand that failure is not final. So
now, speaking of books, what have been some of the books, or something that you're currently reading or that you've read in the past that you would, suggest to people to read?
Sure. So I'm an old head. I'll go with the first old school ones was, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Those are like some of the books that kind of got me started. So I always pay tribute to those.
Those are timeless. Those are timeless books.
How to Win Friends and Influence People. But some of the new books, I would say Your Next 5 Moves, or 15 Moves, I should say. There's another book called, if you haven't read it, this one I would recommend to Audible for sure, is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. That one is just a crazy.
Is that the Marine? He's like a Marine, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that book is
fire, man.
That book is fire.
Yeah.
I'm not an Audible guy at all. Honestly, if I can't read it
on Audible.
You have to get an Audible?
You have to. No, so you can do it in the books. I have the book too, but
I have the book here, yeah.
Yeah, I would highly recommend the Audible version, only because it's him and his friend narrating the Audible, and then after each chapter, he goes into more in depth as to what happened. And
okay.
And him talking, him breaking down while he's talking, like this is like a whole crazy emotion that goes through it, and it really kind of sticks with you,
All right.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out.
Definitely. No, now I gotta do it. I have no choice.
I'll send you the credit if you need that.
Yeah, now I gotta do it, man. No, but that's good. Now, so now on a little bit more of a kind of personal level. So on when you're not working, which I know you work a lot and you work hard. What are you into, man? What do you do? How do you kind of spend your time, hobbies, and everything like that?
As you always say, right? There's discipline, working till you're blue in the face, and have those non-negotiables. Your body will tell you when you're tired, right?
Yes, sir.
So I love to vacation. I love spending time with my family, my mom, my sister, my girlfriend, her nieces. So those things for me, I try not to no longer do like gifts. I want experiences, and I've been doing this now for about 2 years now, and it's been like the best thing I've ever done. So it's having an experience, even if it's a $50 experience or $100 experience or whatever. It's something that you could go back and say, hey, remember that time when we went out and we got that food, or we went out and we got our nails done, mani pedis. We saw the baseball game. So, but same thing. I'm human too. I don't do a lot of Netflix. To be honest with you, I don't do a lot of TV. I used to. My favorite show that I saw from beginning to end, season wise, was $1 Million Listings, New York.
Okay.
So, and that's how far back that
Yeah, I was gonna say damn, that's a while ago.
Yeah. I love Luis, Frederick, and Ryan on that show specifically. I met Luis a couple times, and I was a gamer before, hardcore gamer, so Call of Duty, all that stuff. I love sport events, sport venues, and hanging with the friends. I play music too, so I know you.
I was just about to ask you. I was just about to ask you that.
So I got my music lessons every Monday. Haven't failed. So every Monday I have my music lesson with my teacher, and fortunately we've been able to do events. And we actually just started a last event last week. Was our first after COVID event. So
what instrument are you playing?
Yep. So right now I play the cuatro, which is a Puerto Rican guitar specifically. I grew up in the church. My uncle was a pastor, so the band at the church basically consisted of all cousins, right? So at that time I was playing bass, I was playing drums. We know how to play the congas, timbales. My cousin is killing it with the keys, is good with the keyboard. I had a cousin that used to play a saxophone, and my first instrument actually was a violin. Back in fourth grade.
Nothing wrong with that, man.
Yeah, man. Nothing wrong with that. I play it now? No, man. But I used to play it.
It's funny because the first instrument that I know how to play was the recorder, which is the bootlegger version of a flute, and then I played trumpet and I played some piano, but it's funny. Any of those instruments you give it to me now, and I will butcher. I suck, but I'm glad you still act, pretty active as far as learning how to play, man. I think music is such a beautiful thing, and it's a great way to relieve some stress and work and all that. Go ahead, man.
I love food and I love cars, something. So.
Yeah, no food, no, but no, yeah, come on now. Yeah, food is food, bro.
After the pandemic, I had to buy a Traeger, or ask for a Traeger, so I bought one, and I've been grilling food or smoking food for. That thing has made me a chef because I just follow the instructions. And someone are like, that's so good. I mean, when I'm like,
yeah, bro.
Was that bro? That did it. I didn't do it. I just did what it told me to do. But
food. Food is one of those things, man, that we could be talking about business or we could be talking about whatever. If there's food involved, we're very likely going to have a great conversation because who doesn't like a great plate of food? You know what I mean? Like it's like music. Music is a very international language. Everybody loves. I mean, at least that I know.
Yeah.
Everybody loves that. We all love different types of music. Yeah, but everybody to a certain extent, loves music, man. So, definitely, music is. It's a great uniter. So, well, listen, man.
Universal, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly. So, kind of last thing that I wanted to, ask is just, what are your, your future plans coming up? I know you have your seminars and things of that nature, but whether it's on a micro or macro level, whatever, what are some of your future events coming up, and what are your plans to, in particular with this ReWealth thing, which I know it's really, really important. Your home care business is definitely important, right? Because you're helping folks in their twilight, at the end of their lives, but as it pertains to the ReWealth, what are your goals? What are your plans? Any events coming up?
Sure. So I host weekly workshops. Those workshops will range between investing for basics, which is the fundamentals of investing, and it's just to get you comfortable with investing itself and why it's so critical and why we need it in order if we're going to build that generational wealth, right? That we were talking about earlier. And the other ones is credit cards and credit. So we talk about credit card hacking. Like for the past 5 years, I haven't paid for a flight, I haven't paid for a hotel, just because I've been able to maximize those credit card rewards. And then the other class is about credit, because obviously we need to understand our credit in order for us to qualify for those tiered credit cards. So those are that I host on a weekly basis. Have a speaking engagement on Saturday, June 5th, which is going to be awesome for me. I speak to a graduating high school class.
Nice.
Charter Academy out in West Springfield. And so that's going to be fun for me. because those kids, I've gotten a chance to meet them. I've been on the school site a couple of times just to interact with them and get like feedback with them. And I think that was like super, like that hit home, because that's what I wanted to do, was just be a mentor or be something for somebody who could say, hey, if he could do it, I could do it. So I look forward to that. It's going to be on the 5th. But yeah, it's basically what I have in depth for the ReWealth, which you can follow at _ReWealth REWEALTH. And I sit on a couple boards. I sit on a board for the Hispanic American Library Association. I was on a board for the NAN, which is the National Association of Hispanic Nurses. And the last one that I'm on, which was just recently, was the Home Care Alliance. So the last two are, home care specific. The first one was just giving back with the Hispanic American Library. Again, kind of comes down to tradition. Most of the people are Hispanic, but we're not trying to make it Puerto Rican-ish. We want it to be open to all, because Latino American,
all inclusive. Yeah.
So that's what we got going on in the next couple of months.
Well, man, I got to tell you, man, this is first and foremost, man, I want to thank you for doing this. And just for taking the time to, because I know you're a busy guy, man, and I really appreciate your time and just thinking enough of me to actually do this. Yeah. And then just want to let you know, man, that I, for real, like real talk, I admire you, man. You are like you said, the 18-year overnight success, story. But I couldn't be, prouder and happier, man, to really know you and just to kind of see your journey, and that inspires me. You know what I'm saying? Because granted, I have my limitations, but nonetheless, when I see people such as yourself and others that we network, it's but thank you, man. I really can't thank you enough for doing this, bro.
I'm humbled, man. I appreciate it, and I'll also look up to you too, Jose. It's all reciprocal, and you be killing it with the TikToks. That's something I got to get more creative on. You be consistent with your videos and things like that. So I aspire to be like you as well. So it's all, if we could take from a person and give, that's what it's all about.
And the truth is, bro, that especially as it pertains to the growth of your the ReWealth, the ReWealth initiative, there's definitely a lot of conversations for us to have, just from even if it's just from an educational standpoint, or even just for us to kind of grow that, for me to be a resource for you to grow that. Yeah. We will definitely be in touch, man. But once again, thank you so much, bro. And we looking forward to doing this again soon, man.
Hey, man, looking forward to seeing you soon. Got some grub, some coffee.
Yes, sir. Un abrazo, all right, bro?
Igual.
All right, so everybody, once again, this is Jose Rodríguez Jr. here, your neighborhood friendly insurance agent. And this has been the 3rd episode of the Little Bit About Everything podcast with Wilberto Rodríguez. And until next time, remember, stay active, stay positive, and be well. Peace, y'all.
Peace. Adios.